Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
We'd like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine open now through December, featuring great racing, including the King's Plate coming up in August, Turf Champions Day with the Woodbine Mile in September, and much, much more. Woodbine Racing, great racing north of the border. Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday edition of Racing Across America. I am Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. We'll have a little recap of some of the stakes action yesterday. Nice stakes action included Peter Pan, 3-year-old action in New York. We'll hit on that and more as we go through the morning here. Let me start out, though, by updating you on some of the promos and events coming up here at Capital OTB over the next week. We do have some interesting ones because the Preakness is coming up, and there is a Preakness syndicate that is available for entry right now at capitalotb.com. Click on the promotions link, look for that graphic, click on that, and you get your shot to be on the syndicate team. And again, for a little relatively small amount of money, a $25 entry fee, you get in on some nice, ginormous whale tickets, pick 5, and there'll also be some exacta plays on the Preakness. It should be a fun syndicate next weekend, next Saturday. But entries are open now. Go to capitalotb.com and fill out the entry form and get your shot to get on next Saturday's Preakness syndicate team. Also, if you'd like to stop down here at the Clubhouse Racebook next week, watch the Preakness with us. You know, we always get a good crowd on these Triple Crown Day. And thanks to everybody who showed up Derby Day. It was a really nice crowd out here. Certainly. But Preakness Day will be more of the same. And if you'd like to come down and join us, we will have a bankroll. I'll be playing on behalf of the team during the afternoon. Sign-ups will take place next Saturday here at the Racebook until about 2 p.m. Then we'll randomly select the team. And again, anything I make during the day will be split up by the team at the end of the day. So keep that in mind for next Saturday as well. You can always check out promos and events at capitalotb.com. And one of the promotions was the Super High-Fi Bankroll last night. Again, we played into the mandatory that had about 197,000 going in, and the pool wound up to be well over $500,000. I put a nice ticket together, and I had the right idea. It was just the winner was going to be tough to come up with. Not impossible. The winner is one I looked at. It was a very competitive, started out as a 12-horse field, scratched down to 11. I always say with these mandatories, Gulfstream does it a lot with their mandatory rainbow. Like, let's really make it tough. Well, if you make it tough, then somebody who spends a ton of money, some whale comes in and sweeps it up. I'm not saying make it easy. Just keep it a normal card down on that rainbow and a normal race up at Mohawk Woodbine, and let a bunch of people walk away with $800 or $1,000, which is going to get churned back in. But typically on these mandatories, they put the 12-horse field together. That's very competitive. They did that last night. There was a scratch, and so it scratched down to an 11-horse field. And again, it was a competitive race, and I kind of had the right idea. The 12 Chain Gang was the morning line favorite. And I looked at some of the selections that were put out earlier in the day, and the 12 was getting a lot. I wasn't in love with the 12, but I thought there was maybe a class play there. And so I put the 12 down in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th spots on the ticket and wound up running 3rd. So I was right there. And for a while, close to post time, was the favorite, but wound up, I think, as the second choice. The 5 wound up to be the favorite. And that was another one I had down in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th choices. And that one wound up running 5th. So I had the right idea with a couple of horses that were taking action. I wasn't totally enamored with them. I thought, well, they stand a chance of hitting it, but I'll put them down below. I was a little stronger with my top, the winner. I was 3 deep. The second place, I was 4 deep. But that included the 3 horses that were in the top as well. And they were all, in the 6 to 9 or 10 to 1, maybe 12 to 1 even. So I was looking for maybe some decent prices on top. And again, kind of had the right idea. It's a 17 to 1. I didn't have it. Then my horses were second, third, and fourth. Missed the fifth, but one of mine was right there for 6. So we were kind of right in the hunt with ours. But the winner at 17 to 1, again, it was the 8-horse Major Perrier, who I had looked at and considered because a nice winner a couple starts back. But coming out of the 8, had come out of the 7 last time and just was never in it. Not last night. Left from the 8 and went right to the lead. And and it was an easy lead. How did this horse get the easy lead from the 8? But on the backstretch, they put up the quarter fraction, a half fraction. Horse was about 2 lengths ahead and really doing it pretty easily. And it wasn't that I was totally convinced the horse was then going to continue to win, which it did, because on the backstretch, a 2-length lead in some easy fractions is tough. But it's possible the horse gets caught in the start, but the horse wasn't going to be worse than 5th. And I hadn't used the horse at all on the ticket, so I kind of knew I was toast on the backstretch there. But again, had the right idea. Wound up paying, it's a 20-cent bet, but on their results here, they have it as $1. So it paid almost $23,000 for $1 at the 20-cent increment, or 4,000 some dollars. So it paid well. And again, I kind of had the right idea, and so we were in the mix with the thought process. The 2 horses, the favorite and the second favorite, I wasn't totally enamored with. We had those kind of in the right positions, but just the winner was not on the radar for the ticket last night. We have another Super High Five coming up a couple of weeks, I think. So we'll try it again, and it pays nicely. So we will be trying it again in a couple of weeks. We'll alert you next weekend. The entries will open for that team, and we'll alert you when that happens. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I know Father's Day is a big day at racetracks. I'm not sure Mother's Day is quite the same, but mothers who are racing fans, that's a great Mother's Day day out, a day at the racetrack. So if your mother is a racing fan, keep that in mind. You can pop up to the harness track and have a day at the track, or maybe just come on down here to the race book. Have a little lunch at Black Bear and celebrate Mother's Day. But however you celebrate, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. All right, let's get into it with some stakes action. Nice stakes day yesterday, Belmont at the Big A, 4 stakes. And again, they'll, being a New York-based group, they'll be likely to show up in some fashion up at Saratoga. And we kicked things off stakes-wise yesterday in New York with the John Nehru Grade 3 event for the older horses going 3/4 of a mile. I'll tip my cap to Maggie Wolfendale, who liked Durante in the paddock. She always, when she has a real opinion in the paddock and kind of is effusive about a horse, you have to take another look, certainly. And she talked up Durante a little bit yesterday at 7 to 1. I liked 1-900. 1-900 disappointed as the 4 to 5 favorite running 5th. But it will be Durante getting it done in here as the number 6 horse. Nice little stretch battle, certainly. You can see him coming up in between horses. On the inside is number 3, Acoustic Avenue, the really nice New York bred for Linda Rice. And it's a nice little duel here. Chart margin will wind up to be a neck. They are 7 to 1 and 9 to 1. And then running third is Full Moon Madness, who was a logical player in there, as well as the second choice at 3 to 1. But a couple of okay prices with a couple of horses in a short field that you could play. I did not use Durante in my mix. I had Acoustic Avenue in the mix. And again, at 9 to 1, that one offered some value for Linda Rice. Jose Lascano on board, Acoustic Avenue. It was Ricardo Santana on board, Durante for David Jacobson. Coming out of a second place finish in an optional claimer at Keeneland in the second start of the season. So third start back angle, little improvement, start 1 to start 2. Horse had run well over the track. and gets it done. Again, at a decent price. You got $16 and change. And the Exacta, which was playable. I didn't use Durante, but he was playable. And Acoustic Avenue certainly was. You got about $130 on the Exacta in a 6-horse field. Again, 1-900 took a lot of action in there, and kind of disappointed off a layoff going back to late February. Winds up running 5th in the group with Flavien Prat on board. Really no threat at all. Was kind of up in the mix early, but didn't jump in late. We'll see if that one rebounds. And again, these are horses you would expect to see up at Saratoga. Certainly, although Durante, I will say, last summer was running down at Ellis. So being a David Jacobson horse, and he, has horses based down in Kentucky. This one was working at Churchill. Durante, I don't know whether we'll see or not. Certainly, Acoustic Avenue will be up at Saratoga. 1-900 getting a shot to rebound up at Saratoga, certainly. But Durante looking good yesterday in the John Nehru. The Ruffian for Fillies and Mares going the 1-turn mile, grade 2 event. And I liked Inefficiency. I had Howard Kravitz on yesterday with me, and he agreed. Efficiency, we were master of the obvious there at 8-5 is the favorite for the Chad Klarovich runner, 2 for 2, and it looked pretty good so far. And Efficiency went off as, again, the 8-5 favorite. Winds up 3rd, though. Efficiency is going to be the number 5 horse. It'll be number 6, Irish Maxima, who I had kind of down at the bottom of my mix, but was very playable for John Service, and just kind of opened it up in a fashion that you thought, well, this horse will come back to the field. And at the top of the stretch, I thought that's got to happen. And then you could see that nobody was gaining until late. Irish Maxima started to tire a little bit late, but if you had Irish Maxima, you were not sweating at all. They came late, but it was clearly too late. The chart margin winds up to be a length. Cassier, a horse who I thought was live for Shug. Dylan Davis on board, ran 2nd in Inefficiency, as I say, ran 3rd in there. And, top of the stretch, Inefficiency kind of made that Chad Brown move where this horse is going to have a little momentum at the end. And as I say, Irish Maxima is going to start to come back. And that whole group back there was just kind of spinning their wheels until Irish Maxima really started to tire a little bit, fairly close to the wire, though. So as I say, they kind of made a little bit of a move, but it was too late for all of them. So Irish Maxima looking pretty good, and a nice career. I always say you win half or more than half of your races, you're talented. This one, 18 starts now, 11 wins. This has to put Irish Maxima up in the neighborhood of $750,000, gets over the $700,000 mark for sure. John Service, Frankie Pennington in for the ride, is with John Service, a Parks-based runner, was coming in off a couple of wins. Last time at Parks, 2 back at Aqueduct. Those are both an optional claiming company. Had a bullet workout down at Parks since. So there were things to look at and like. And one of them, again, was the price. 6-1, you got $14.44. And again, another logical. Both of them were in the mix. They were both logical. Cassier runs 2nd. So your Exacta, with, again, a couple playable horses, $120. So I am not, I had them both down at the bottom of my mix. I'm not red boarding there, but I'm just saying they were both playable. And so hopefully somebody out there jumped in on nice Exacta in that race. Take the A train. Race number 8 on the card yesterday, the 3rd of 4 nice stakes as well. $150,000 up for grabs for the 3-year-old fillies sprinting on the grass. This one I did get right with Cadenza on top for Brad Cox. Went off as the favorite at 3-2. King Salver runs 2nd at 8-1, and then Blaze runs 3rd. But Cadenza, Brad Cox, Manny Franco, coming out of a 2nd place finish in a stake at Turfway. This is a horse who the last 3 starts, December, February, and March, was on the synthetic at Turfway, but had turf races earlier that were okay. And again, it was Brad Cox, Stone Street, and gets it done there, as you can see, holding them off in the stretch by about half a length. King Salver running second. That's a horse I didn't use, and you got 8-1 there. Exact with the favorite on top. Yeah, you got $43 with the exact if you did like King Salver. That one coming out of a kind of a dud in a stake, a grade 2 stake down at Keeneland. So this was going to be a little bit of an easier group. I had looked at King Salver, but the numbers were just a little bit light for me to tilt in that direction. And I haven't seen the buyers yet today, but I'd have to think it was a decent number, which means King Salver probably ran a decent number. And so maybe now, getting into the 3-year-old season a little bit, that'll be one to pay attention to in this kind of, well, and also I will note, first time on the turf for King Salver. So that may be, maybe one of those, it took us, 7 starts to kind of figure out where this horse belongs. So King Salver, again, will be interesting going forward because the numbers were a little light. They had to improve yesterday, second start of the season on grass. So that one, but Cadenza, obviously, in the career so far has been very good. The winner now 6 starts under the belt and 3 wins, including a stakes win for Brad Cox. And again, you would think these horses will be up at Saratoga as well. And finally, on the stakes card yesterday at Belmont at the Big A was the Peter Pan. Traditionally plays into the Belmont Stakes, and I think that's the case. Coming out of the race, it sounded like that was certainly the potential here. Not, nobody ever comes out and says that. Well, I won't say nobody, but usually in any of these stakes races, there isn't. We're going. It's always let's see how the horse does, and then we'll make a decision. It sounded like Chad Brown was a little bit questionable on the distance for growth equity, but stretched to the 2 turns nicely yesterday. 1 1/8, grade 3 event, Peter Pan for the 3-year-olds. And growth equity was the favorite. Talk to Me Jimmy, I said yesterday, I was really interested to see what Talk to Me Jimmy would do, because this is the nice little New York bred for Rudy Rodriguez that started the career back in September, ran 3rd at Belmont at Aqueduct in a state-bred maiden special. Then a nice winner in a state-bred maiden special in November. Then went in the Withers in February and ran away and hid from the group with an improved buyer. It wasn't spectacular. It was an 82, but it was improved, and it was just visually impressive. Then came back and kind of clunked in the wood. So I was really interested to see what Talk to Me Jimmy would do. Trendsetter was certainly a player as well. I had it in that order, and that's the order it came in the scratch-reduced field of 5. Growth equity, the number 3 horse, Chad Brown and Klarovich, coming off a maiden breaker in the 3rd career start, but with improving numbers in the first 3, looked set for the stakes debut assignment and gets it done. You can see Talk to Me Jimmy, gritty there on the inside, not giving up necessarily. The chart margin will wind up to be 2 lengths, but I thought it was a nice rebound for Talk to Me Jimmy. Running 3rd was Trendsetter, who was coming out of a win in the Lexington in the previous start. But growth equity, nice little runner. And as I say, coming out, a lot of times the Peter Pan is, let's head to the Belmont. Belmont this year, rather than 1.5 miles. Obviously, at Saratoga, it's 1.25 miles. But still, for growth equity, who has been 6 furlongs, 7 furlongs, 1 mile, and yesterday 1.8 miles, going to be a test for that one. And as I say, Chad Brown sounded a little bit unsure on the distance limitations perhaps for this one, but looked okay yesterday. Again, waiting to see the number and see what that one got. As I say, nice rebound for Talk to Me Jimmy. And Trendsetter, again, was coming out of a win in the Lexington, but was 32-1 that day. So that was a little bit of a surprise. But they have a nice runner. Stakes winner, graded stakes place yesterday. So Trendsetter, you would think, will play in the 3-year-old division wherever they elect to go. But this is the kind that I think you probably pick your spots: West Virginia Derby, maybe Ohio Derby. We'll see where they go with Trendsetter. But growth equity will be very interesting to watch for Chad Klarovich. And again, with those connections, we'll certainly be looking up at Saratoga for the next start, wherever it may be, for growth equity. And Talk to Me Jimmy as well, being a Rudy horse. Very intrigued. That was a nice little rebound for him yesterday. That it kind of validates what we saw earlier to some extent. Maybe not a superstar, but again, I think a player where, and being a New York bred, they can kind of pick their spots there too. All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, there was some more action yesterday. I also wanted to look at one from last Sunday that we didn't get to look at that'll play in the handicap division. So we'll do all of that when we return right after these messages.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in the studio. Thanks for joining us. Again, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Yesterday at Churchill, it was the William Walker. These are 3-year-olds sprinting on the turf. Horse to beat was going to be outfielder, who's had an interesting career, has shown some talent, certainly. Trained by Wesley Ward, owned in part by Wesley Ward and Jason Worth. And if you go on, I'm pretty sure I saw it on Twitter yesterday. There's some video of Jason Worth watching the race at Churchill. But this horse broke the maiden at Churchill just about a year ago as a 2-year-old sprinting on the turf. No surprise for a Wesley Ward runner. And then they laid off until August and went to a Group 1 over in France. Gave that a shot. Wesley Ward has been successful with these types going to Europe. Wound up 4th in there. Came back to Keeneland in an allowance race, won that pretty easily, went to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, and was a well-beaten 14th in there, then laid off until March of this year and tried to stake on the synthetic at Turfway and won that pretty easily. So the one to beat, I was just not totally convinced. Again, it's a horse that's shown some talent, but it's been a quirky schedule so far. I used Reb 5 on top, Mark Casse runner, Throckmorton in the second spot. They were coming out of a 1-2 finish in a turf sprint stake at Keeneland. They'll be the 1 and the 2, and number 8 is outfielder. John Velasquez on board for Wesley Ward, and you can see outfielder is making up ground. And again, the video of Jason Worth watching is superimposed. This is superimposed over, and this horse goes by. He and his girlfriend or wife, I'm not sure, were jumping up and down, and deservedly so, as outfielder wins by a chart margin of 3 lengths. Sandal Song runs second. Throckmorton runs third. My top pick, Reb 5, disappointed running running 5th in there, actually. And again, those two coming out of that Keeneland stake. A little bit disappointing for Throckmorton and Reb 5, 3rd and 5th. But nothing disappointing about outfielder with the nice win, $225,000 stakes race. Now 4 wins in 6 starts. But I said it's been a little bit quirky with the trip over to Europe, Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, where the horse was well beaten there. But other than that, that the and I should know, I said, came back last year from the try in France and won the allowance event at Keeneland. That was on the dirt. So this horse has tried all 3 surfaces, has won on all 3 surfaces, is now a nice stakes winner on the turf, as well as a stakes winner on the synthetic. And this is one, based at Keeneland with Wesley Ward. Being a Wesley Ward runner, I would hope we'll see this horse up at Saratoga. I don't know whether that's a done deal as far as, again, the options they have and what might be out there summer and into the fall at Kentucky Downs. They may work back from a big money race there or whatnot. I hope we see this one up at Saratoga, though, because as I say, it's a quirky career, but it's been a fun career so far. You just don't see horses that do this well at the high level on all three surfaces. So they have plenty of options. Certainly, we see Jason Worth up at Saratoga a lot. So I would think the potential for this horse to be up there is probably pretty good. We'll keep our fingers crossed there. Speaking of Wesley Ward and heading over to Europe and the success he's had, part of that is taking the 2-year-olds over there. That's kind of been his thing. And he had a couple of nice ones yesterday in 2 essentially win in your in Royal Ascot races down at Gulfstream, which have been kind of fun and productive over the past couple. George Weaver had the horse last year, a couple years ago. But again, for the boys and the girls, they run these races at Gulfstream, and reading the conditions, winner will receive a $25,000 equine travel stipend from the United States to England and an automatic entry into one of the Royal Ascot 6 2-year-old stakes races. So there was a race like that for the boys yesterday, 2-year-old boys and the 2-year-old girls. And Wesley Ward, there was an article in the Forum yesterday, I believe, from Mike Welch. He had talked to Wesley Ward. Wesley Ward was feeling pretty confident about his 2 runners, one in each race. And in the Royal Palm Juvenile, that one being for the boys, actually, but there were fillies in here. The filly race is restricted, obviously, to just fillies. The boys race isn't really a boys race. It's open, and so there were fillies in here as well. But Wesley Ward had a filly in here, Scara Bray, coming off a debut win at Keeneland. He felt pretty confident about that when the betting public did as well, making Scara Bray the 4-5 choice. But Celtic Dispute was going out for Patrick Biancone off a second-place finish in the career debut at Gulfstream on the dirt. So a little bit interesting by Leinster, a win early sire. And Celtic Dispute went off as the second choice at 5-2. They'll have a nice little stretch matchup in here. It'll be number 3, Celtic Dispute, getting it done. Luis Saez in town for the ride. Joe Bravo on Scara Bray, the Wesley Ward runner, the 8. And you can see that Wesley Ward runner has the lead. And then now the 3 pushes on by. Chart margin is a neck and $7.60 for the Biancone runner. I didn't hear the follow-up, but you would think, I think Patrick Biancone's a sporting guy. He'll probably take the shot to go over to Royal Ascot. And it's always fun. Ever since Wesley Ward has kind of made it happen, I think we see a few more American runners over at Royal Ascot. It's fun on that big week over in the UK to have a few American runners to root for. And typically they do pretty well, including these 2-year-old horses that have come out of these races at Gulfstream. So we'll keep our eyes on Celtic Dispute. Scara Bray is going to be a fine runner for Wesley Ward going forward. Again, that was a filly. Celtic Dispute also a filly, but again, faced some boys in that race. They'll both be players, but as they say, Celtic Dispute gets, if they elect to, gets the opportunity to head over to England for Royal Ascot. But we will see, again, being a Wesley Ward runner, the runner-up, I would think, Saratoga possible there. On the filly side of things, and again, this one is limited to the fillies, the Royal Palm Fillies Juvenile. And Wesley Ward had another runner in here that, according to the Mike Welch article, he was pretty confident in. Joker's Chic, who was coming out of a 4th-place finish in a Keeneland sprint in debut, had gone off the favorite that day, as you might expect, being a Wesley Ward runner, a 2-year-old sprinting at Keeneland. but didn't live up to that in the debut running fourth. But Wesley felt coming into this one was in a good spot, a good setup to run well, but it wasn't to be. Joker Chic, fourth in debut and fifth yesterday as the second choice. The favorite was number 7, Potts Right, who winds up running fourth. So they disappoint. The winner here, as you see, Liberty Rings, getting it done fairly easily. Chart margin of length and a quarter. Pros and Cons second. Sass third. But Liberty Rings now gets the potential trip over to Europe for trainer Nicholas Palmer. Miguel Vasquez was on board. Came out of a debut effort with a really close-up third in a little 4.5 furlong sprint on the dirt. So transferred over to the turf very nicely. And again, you never know whether they're going to elect to make the trip, but you get the expenses paid and you get the chance to go over and try. I would expect they'll give it a shot. And again, adds to the fun of that week there. So we'll certainly be rooting for them to take the shot, but we'll say, as I say, I didn't see follow-ups to say for certain whether that'll be the game plan, but we'll keep our fingers crossed that potentially that does happen, because the more Americans over there, the better. It adds to the fun and the rooting interest of really what internationally is one of the strongest series of days. I mean, they kick it off every year, right, with the Grade 1 event, Group 1 event, and it just keeps going for the week over there. So it's always fun to have a little hometown rooting interest, as it was. I said earlier I wanted to show one more going back to last week and last Sunday. Nice stakes day at Belmont at the Big A last Sunday as well. But I wanted to show the Westchester for the older horses. Talked about this the last couple of days with some of the guests. The older division, we saw some of it last week. Corporate Power, Baeza with the bad start, still a good run. Skippy Longstocking. The 2 years ago, the older division was just, I'm an Eclipse voter. You came to the end of the year, older male. Last year, stronger. It was. You had the 3-year-olds from the year before who had turned 4 and kind of developed, and it became an interesting division. I think we're getting more of the same this year, and that's one reason I wanted to show this. Antiquarian was a player in that division last year as a 4-year-old, won the Jockey Club Gold Cup up at Saratoga, then went out and kind of disappointed in the Breeders' Cup Classic. But the Centennial runner for Todd Pletcher looked pretty good last Saturday in the Westchester. It was a short field, scratch-reduced field, but it was a short field of 4. But it will be Antiquarian winning nicely. John Velasquez on board here as well. His name has come up a few times already this morning. He continues to just dazzle. But John Velasquez, chart margins 5 3/4. Bishop's Bay winds up second. Pentathlon and Quince Brew of the 4. But again, Bishop's Bay was the winner of the cigar last December with the triple-digit buyer. Had been 3 for 3 on this track for Brad Cox, coming out of a 4th in the Saudi Cup. So that's a legit runner, and Antiquarian was well clear of Bishop's Bay. So comes back now in the 5-year-old debut. Again, after a good-looking 4-year-old season last year with that win in the Jockey Club Gold Cup, Antiquarian comes back and stamps himself as one that'll be kind of fun to watch going forward. And again, with a couple of Saratoga starts last year up at Saratoga, the Suburban and the Jockey Club Gold Cup, and being Centennial and Todd Pletcher, have to think we'd see that one up at Saratoga. Bishop's Bay has appeared up there as well in the past. So I would think horses coming out of the Westchester will be players up the Northway in a few weeks and beyond. So again, stakes races over the last couple of weeks. Last week, obviously, at Churchill, and this week around the Horn a little bit. We'll play into the various divisions late spring and into the summer, and that will include up at Saratoga as well. All right, going to take another break. When we come back, we'll do some news and notes. Maybe we'll do a little handicapping as well as we continue on this Sunday morning Racing Across America. Stay tuned.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Welcome back. Monmouth opened yesterday for the season, and today they have a nice stakes race over there. I'll just give you a heads up. The third race today at Monmouth is the Long Branch, which oftentimes will play into the Haskell a little bit later on. 3-year-olds, obviously, a mile and 70, $100,000 up for grabs. Field of 6 in here. Kind of interesting. The one to beat's obviously going to be hedge ratio, and as the name would kind of indicate, with a financial twist to it, it's Chad and Klarovich coming off a win over at Aqueduct with a triple-digit buyer. The start two-back, though, was a fourth-place finish in the seasonal debut with a 58 buyer. So it's one of those horses a little bit inconsistent. That 58 looks like potentially just one to draw a line through. However, it seems like the 100. And maybe one was too good, one was too bad. Maybe we're somewhere in the middle. I think if we're in the middle, we're closer probably to the 100, though. So if you buy into that triple digit, the one to beat, if you think we are somewhere in the middle, but maybe closer to that than maybe 90 or high 80s, then some of these others become a little interesting. Bricklin, obviously, with some buyers that, again, would play into hedge ratio if that one comes back a little bit. Bricklin comes out of a fourth-place finish behind Renegade Silent Tactic in the Arkansas Derby, was third in the Sunland Derby behind Pavlovian. So it's faced some interesting horses for Rudy Brissett, and now comes in of a couple of workouts at Keeneland. Paco Lopez on board. He had a good day, opening day yesterday at Monmouth. So Brooklyn might be a little bit interesting. Red Zone Runner had a nice win, two-back in a stake at Parks, and then was up the track in the Wood Memorial. So, talk to me, Jimmy. Interesting to see if he can rebound today. The others look up against it a little bit. A Noble Heritage, perhaps. But again, it'll be interesting. And if hedge ratio can kind of back up that triple digit last time, could be an interesting player as you move into the summer on the 3-year-old scene. Again, that's the third race today at Monmouth on their opening weekend down there. I think, I said, I'm not sure. Father's Day is pretty good, and I'm not sure. Mother's Day, I think, at Monmouth is kind of a thing, I think. So Equibase figures came out a few days ago for the month of April. It was kind of good news, month of April. Wagering up over 2%. Purses were up notably. Field size continues to be a problem. Field size was down, but that the wagering was up. Again, this is going back to April. That said, the year-to-date overall continues to be disappointing. So for April, wagering was up just over 2%, a little over 2%. But wagering year-to-date was down over 4.5%. And again, I certainly think a lot of that, the New York product this winter, I have to be honest, it was struggling with field size and whatnot. And New York is just such a main player on the American racing scene that I think that had to affect. There were some weather issues, obviously, as well earlier this year. Oaklawn had that delay in January. So there was some natural things that you can't avoid. And then there was also, you just have to recognize the field size thing is definitely trending in a way that is concerning. And that said, if you go out and you look at the news the last week or so, Maryland and New Jersey are both kind of looking at issues, Maryland in particular, the last few days, where they put the halt on the purchase of Laurel, which seemed to be, Maryland seemed to be maybe in a move forward or a little bit of a resurgence with the move to Pimlico and rebuilding Pimlico and then purchasing Laurel as a training facility. It seemed to be on the verge of, hey, maybe good things could happen down there. And now that has all gone in the other direction. You can read it, but the legislature was kind of looking at the purchase of Laurel, as they had already purchased for some millions of dollars another facility that they were going to use as a training facility, and then decided that wasn't going to work. And so I could understand where the overseers would say, wait a minute, you didn't kind of check this out before you spent the millions of dollars, and now we're spending another few million, or multiple millions. So things are at a little bit of a point in Maryland that's concerning, and New Jersey has been in a situation like that a little bit as well for a while. So we'll see. But as they say, field size is not helping anybody overall, and that was kind of indicated by the numbers that came out the other day, looking at year to date. But again, have to take a little solace in the fact that wagering was up in the month of April a little bit there. This time of year, there is a 3-year-old poll and a thoroughbred poll. Both, there are 2 polls by the NTRA. 3-year-old poll only lasts through the Triple Crown, and then it consolidates into the 1 poll. But it was interesting to see after last week's, obviously, Kentucky Derby action, how much would that juggle things up? And it did pretty significantly, not just the Derby itself, but some of the other races on the weekend also. Golden Tempo moved from number 13 last week to, no surprise, number 1. And you get it. The Derby is the highlight for 3-year-olds. Really, you can make the argument for the whole year, although things can certainly change as the year progresses. But at this point, the Derby winner gets the nod. 22 folks voted that one with their first place vote. 9 people, though, had Renegade on top still with the second place finish. So Renegade, number 2 on the list. Reading down the top 10, Golden Tempo, Renegade, Chief Wallaby, Crude Velocity, who won the Pat Day Mile. He was going to be interesting in the Preakness, and then Bob Baffert decided we'll look somewhere else. But Crude Velocity last week was number 1 amongst the votes, so it got some votes, but not many to be number. He was number 31. Got some votes, but not many. So he goes from number 31, and then the win in the Pat Day Mile propels him to number 4. Commandment moves from number 2 to number 5. A couple of runners at 6 and 7 that got no votes last week. Stark contrast, I've said they made the right move there, skipped the Derby. They had the points to get into the Derby, but a horse that hadn't tried the dirt, they went to the American Turf and won that very nicely on the Derby undercard. That one goes from no votes last week to number 6 on the 3-year-old poll, and always a runner. No votes last week, wins the Oaks and moves to number 7 on the poll. Further Ado goes from 3 last week to 8. Puma, same, goes from 4 to 9. And Incredible moves into the top 10, going from number 11 to number 10. Just missing other horses from last weekend. Ocelli is 11. Danon Bourbon, number 12. Emerging Market, number 13 on your thoroughbred poll. So again, your 3-year-old poll overall. So again, last weekend, not just the Derby, but some of the other stakes at Churchill clearly playing into the 3-year-old poll this week. The overall poll, there was not anything significant last week that juggled it up. And so really the poll, there was some minor moves around. But to give you the top 5, Magnitude, White Abario, Sovereignty, Skippy Longstocking, who did run last week, and moved up 1 spot from 5 to 4. And Nisos is in the 5th place spot. So no real shake up there regardless. T.O. Elvis wound up number 11 on the poll. There was a little move from last week with that one. So, but as I say, there wasn't a whole lot of movement on the overall poll last week. Certainly not as compared to what the 3-year-olds did. Completely understandable with a big weekend of 3-year-old action. Oaks Derby, the Pate Mile. Crew to Velocity is going to be interesting to watch. And again, I would have liked to have seen him in the Preakness, but I have the some of the Preakness probables in front of me, and it's shaping up. Looks like a full field. I mean, they have a full field will be 14. It's limited there. Then they'll have a couple also eligibles perhaps, and it looks like it's going to be a full field. And I think it's going to be a fun competitive race. And I think horses will come out of this with potential to play on the 3-year-old scene going forward. Travers and Haskell and whatnot. Silent Tactic is obviously one of those because this horse would have been in the Derby but had a little hiccup. And Mark Casse has said this horse seems to be getting back to himself and happy with the way the horses work. So we'll see if Silent Tactic makes it. It was still a little bit up in the air, but if that one makes it again, that was a legit Derby contender. So that one will play. The workout the other day for Napoleon Solo, I think it was Dave Grenig that wrote about it in the Racing Forum. You can check that out. That convinced the connections of Napoleon Solo to take the shot. And the article said, we still think this is potentially a 2-turn horse. Maybe not, but we're going to take our last shot, one more shot at the 2 turns. Worked very well. There is some speed in the race, though, so it with the way Napoleon Solo runs, we'll see how it all works out pace-wise. But, again, it looks like he will go. Pretty Boy Maya had to work, I think, right up here at Saratoga. I saw the video. It was on the Oklahoma. I'm reasonably certain that they were happy with Pretty Boy Maya for Jeremiah Engelhardt coming out of a couple of wins, most recently Maiden Breaker and Optional Claimer with improving numbers. That one's interesting. Iron Honor for Chad Brown and company. Disappointed in the Wood Memorial, but had won the Gotham earlier. I would expect a rebound for that one. Makes it interesting. Chip Honcho, who was kind of uncharacteristic, I would think, in the Louisiana Derby. That has the look of maybe one you can draw a line through. I could see that one rebounding. Crupper is interesting, coming out of the Bath House Row win down at Oak Lawn, which is a win and you're in for this race. So again, it is a fun bunch in here. Talking for Danny Gargan, they were happy with the way that one worked out. Oh, and Taj Mahal, I said after the Tessio, this is a Brittany Russell runner that is based down in Maryland. Currently 3 for 3, and that includes 2 stakes. Won the maiden special in debut, then went in the Miracle Wood. That's always tough. I mean, regardless of what the field looks like, they stepped from a maiden debut into the stakes company, won that, and then won the Tessio and looked really good winning the Tessio last time. And the Tessio over the years has produced some nice Preakness runners, interesting Preakness runners. I think Taj Mahal is right in that category, so we'll watch that one as well. So again, we're a week away, a little less than a week. Should be fun. Looking forward to it. Hopefully you are too. And we will give you a reminder that there is a Preakness syndicate next week that you can get into. $25 buys you in. 40 people on the team. That's $1,000. Capital OTB puts in $500. You make selections. There'll be a big pick 5 ticket, and there'll be some exacta plays into the Preakness. You make selections, and then a consensus ticket is put together. So you're in for a whale-sized ticket on the pick 5, and you're in for some very hefty exacta plays as well. Should be fun for the syndicate next week. Preakness Syndicate entries are open now. You are encouraged to swing on by capitalotb.com, click on the promotions link, look for that graphic, and fill out an entry form for next week's syndicate. And keep in mind, if you want to come down here and join us at the Clubhouse Racebook next week, I will have a bankroll, live bankroll, right here at the Clubhouse next Saturday. Come on in to watch the Preakness, grab a little lunch at Black Bear, sit back, watch the Pimlico action. Well, no, the Laurel action, actually, as that's where Preakness is this week. But take your shot to get on the team. Entries will be open until about 2 o'clock next Saturday. We'll randomly select the team, and I'll play all afternoon and split up the winnings, hopefully knocking it out of the park next Saturday live here at the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. All right. again, you can check out promos and events always at capitalotb.com. Click on that promotions link, and you'll see what is coming up. And again, that I-5 last night, we were in the ballpark. We're going to do that again in a couple of weeks. I want another shot, because as I say, I had the right idea with the favorite and the second favorite. I wasn't convinced on them, had them a little down in the mix, and they got in the positions I thought they might. And I had some prices in the mix in the top two spot, just the wrong one. And as I say, on the backstretch, even before the fractions came up, how did the 8 get out there so easily when last time left from the 7 and was nowhere? But then as they kind of went towards the far turn with the fractions, a couple lengths ahead, I knew I would, since I hadn't used the 8 in any of my positions, it was going to be tough for the 8, a couple lengths ahead in those fractions, to wind up worse than 5th. Might not have won, which he did at 17-1, but might not win, but was not going to be out of the ticket likely. So I knew I was kind of toast then. But as I say, felt like made some of the right decisions there. So we will reload and try it again in a couple of weeks. And again, that'll open up next weekend. We will alert you to that as we get close. The upcoming Super High Five bankroll. All right, this afternoon, again, we'll have some nice action here on the network. I'll be taking a look at a little Belmont at the Big A and some Churchill as well. Don't forget, opening weekend, second day of action at Monmouth with that Long Branch for the 3-year-olds. A week away from the Preakness. We'll have plenty of discussion about that as the week continues, because as I say, it's shaping up to be a fun group. Everybody out there on social media wringing their hands that they elected to bypass with the winner. And it really looks like there won't be a whole lot of Derby participants. I said yesterday, and I tweeted it out. You can go find the tweet, follow my Twitter feed, and look down a few tweets, because it was Friday or Thursday. I was curious. I went back and looked the last 10 years, because everybody is, there's 2 weeks. Nobody wants to come back in 2 weeks. Last 10 years, there's typically 4 or 5 horses from the Derby that do come back. And they have won, I believe, 6 of them. 7 of the last 10 Derby winners came back and ran in the Preakness. But as I say, the Derby runners tend to do very well in the Preakness when they show up, and typically it is 4 or 5 of them. This year, a little bit of an aberration, certainly. I said yesterday as well, I think the last couple of years, it's also, given that the Belmont is 1.25 miles, it's maybe a little bit easier to make that decision to skip. Hey, we get 5 weeks. You're the Derby winner. You just won at 1.25 miles. Now we get 5 weeks and we get to come back at 1.25 miles. Whereas traditionally, the 1.5 miles, everybody's kind of like, will my horse get the 1.5 miles? 2 weeks later, though, 1 3/16, I just won at 1.25 miles. So I think maybe the situation with Belmont being under construction and 1.25 miles up at Saratoga makes the decision a little bit different for the Derby winner. But all of that said and done, I think the Preakness is shaping up to be a lot of fun with, again, horses that will match up with some of the Derby runners and the top of the class as the summer progresses. So looking forward to it next week, certainly. All right, we will wrap it up for this edition of Racing Across America. Seth Merrow in the studio on this Sunday morning, looking at some of the nice action from yesterday and beyond. And we will look ahead all afternoon at some action on a Sunday afternoon. Again, a little Belmont at Aqueduct and Churchill for me. You can plug into some of the other tracks as well that will feature here on the network. And we'll kick things off probably in about 1.5 hours or so. So we'll see you then. We'd like to thank Woodbine for their sponsorship of this program and some of the other programming and events here at Capital OTB. Woodbine open now through December, featuring great racing, including the King's Plate coming up in August, Turf Champions Day with the Woodbine Mile in September, and much, much more. Woodbine Racing, great racing north of the border.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off-Track Betting.